Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. Are you a people pleaser? Well, if so, this video is for you. We're going to be talking about what's the difference between being a nice person and being a people pleaser. We'll be looking at how people pleasing can affect your life and uncovering the core motivation behind people pleasing and how the inner child is involved. And most importantly, towards the end of the video, we'll be talking about techniques to stop your people pleasing so that you can have a more authentic, balanced relationships. Welcome to our Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. So David, the question we've had in, and I know this is a really popular topic, is I've spent my whole life trying to create a happy home environment and nurture positive relationships. I like pleasing others and making things okay for everyone. I'm a kind and sensitive person and have a lot of love to give. But my people pleasing is exhausting me. People take advantage of me and oftentimes I end up feeling resentful. Can you help? Okay, David, so I want to begin with talking about what are the signs of people pleasing. How do I know the difference between if I'm just a kind, loving, sensitive person who's being nice and if I'm people pleasing?
Okay, so the quickest answer to that, if you're people pleasing, it never works. And you know it never works. And you try harder and harder and harder. And the harder you try, the more it doesn't work. And that's when you're trying to please people. Because take a moment and drop your shoulders and take a breath. Even the phrase doesn't make sense. How can you please people? How do you know what they want to please? And in this video, I'm telling you, it's going to be quite complicated because we're going to be exploring the emotional pendulum. We're going to be going from one side to the other side, back to the other side. But the difference between you just being a nice, genuine, authentic person
who wants to be helpful,
here's the Taoist saying, don't try and please people, share your happiness with them. Allow your chi, your energy, who you are to come out from you like a wave. You know when you drop a pebble into a pond and all the ripples ripple out? That's what you should be doing, not projecting into their lives and telling them or guessing what they want and trying to give them what they want to make them happy, because you will fail. You will always get it wrong. You know you will. And that's where you must stop.
Yeah, but David, when you say projecting into their lives, I'm already in their lives. So if I'm say trying to please my partner or my children or my relatives or my friends, these people are in my lives. I have an emotional connection to them. I want to be a kind, generous person to them. I don't know. When you say it never works, what doesn't work? I have that connection. I like to give. What's wrong with that?
Well, what doesn't work is when you second guess what pleases them. Because the more you try and please them, in many videos we talk about this high jump bar. The more you try and please them, they just raise the bar and then you can't please them and then you can't please them. Instead of you trying to please them, why don't they please themselves? Why have you got to please them? Why don't they take self-responsibility for finding their own happiness? Yeah. How do you know what their happiness is? You might do something and they still moan and they're still grumpy and they're still a bit upset. You can't please them. Now, here's the pendulum. Please do not think when I'm saying you can't please them, displease them. Don't go to the other way. Oh, are you saying that I should displease?
Or
be selfish. Yeah. Come into the Wu Wei. So share your happiness. Why don't you concentrate on you being happy? Why don't you concentrate on your life? Why don't you concentrate on doing things that please you? Instead of trying to control the outside. How many times did we talk about this? Instead of trying to control externally people, events, trying to make your family, your parents, your partner, your children happy, then concentrate on yourself. Give them the example of being happy. Live your life in happiness. This is in the Wu way. This is what you can control. You can control you, but if you keep on trying to control them, it will fail. Hasn't it always failed? It will continue to fail.
David, you say don't try and second guess what people want, and you're talking about kind of strategizing.
Exactly.
But what if I think what in the example where if someone is constantly being asked to do something and they're just saying yes because
stop it.
The people in your life are asking you to do things that will be good for them or ease them or help them, and you're saying yes because actually you're a nice person, you want to help them. What's the difference between being kind and helpful and being a people pleaser in that situation?
But there's a difference between kind and helpful and being a carer. You're not an emotional carer. It's not your job to be responsible for someone else's emotions. So there's a difference between nice and being a pleasant person. And you can say no in a very pleasant way, can't you? Well, thank you for asking me, my darling, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So you can say no very pleasantly. You don't have to keep on bending to other people's will.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I've just got the image coming to my mind. It's like putting your finger in the dam. As you put your finger in one hole, then another hole comes. And they want something else. And somebody wants something else. And I think that lady says...
And this is why the lady said, you end up feeling really tired. And then... Well, can I move on to talk about what this resentment thing? Because does that imply there's an expectation of getting something back for?
Well, this is this is what I'm going to say.
I mean, this is like the strategizing we're talking about now, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the pendulum, you see. Because when you cut through all of this high-level stuff that we're talking to, aren't I a nice person? I want everybody to be happy. Wouldn't it be not happy if everybody I know would be happy as I want them to be? I'm sorry, this is manipulation. At our recent retreat, one of the guests said, I've changed the idea of pleasing people, David. I now call it manipulating people. And I said, well done. That's exactly what you're doing. Because a lot of my clients are pleasing people because they want their life to be happier. They want their life to be better. Wouldn't it be better if everybody in my family did what I thought that they should do? Wouldn't it, if I try and, how many times have I heard this from a child? If I please my mum or please my dad, then they'll stay together and the family will be happier. And what you're doing is you're trying to manipulate other people to do what you think is right for the whole. This is why this is a difficult subject. You're not a nasty person or a person trying to manipulate people for harm. You're trying to manipulate people for what you think is the greater good. The only problem is you never know what the greater good is because you can't look in their minds. You can't second guess them. You can't read their minds. You can't keep on giving them what they want before they know they want it. This is a complete nonsense. And absolutely, as that lady said, this will drain your chi energy all of the time. And then you create a red light feeling that she calls resentment because you're not winning and they're not doing what you want them. What you're saying to the person, I know better than you. What's going to make you happy in your life?
So what you're saying is, like in the example of the lady who asked the question, if we trying to create a happy home environment, if we're trying to create positive relationships, through people pleasing, it's almost like we're taking the burden of the responsibility on ourselves without anyone asking, or maybe people do ask and take advantage. But that's not the top and bottom of it is what you're saying is that's not your responsibility. Of course, you have a role to play, but as does everyone else involved.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I'm saying a little thing more than you. Okay. I'm saying this will not work. Do you hear what I'm saying? It will not work. If you've got a grumpy partner or a grumpy parent or a grumpy child, ask them why they're grumpy. Communicate with them. This is what a relationship is about. Don't come up with this idea, well, I'm going to please them. If I do everything that I think that they want, then they're going to be happy. Then our relationship is going to be really nice. Then little bunny rabbits will jump around the field and roses will grow around the door and we'll be in Disney World one week. We'll be a nice little Disney World family where everybody's happy. You cannot do it. You are not responsible for other people's emotions. They are. They are responsible. You can't go in there and zip open their skull and play around with their emotions and make them happy the way that you think it should be. You should be communicating with them. Remember when we talk about relationships is about relating. So if you've got a grumpy partner, then I would ask her or him, why are you so grumpy? What is it about life, about our relationship, about our home, about the life you live in that makes you grumpy? Give them the opportunity to discuss and talk.
But David, I believe that if I say yes to things, it does make people happy and it makes my life easier. Now, you talk about...
But then you wouldn't be resentful.
Well, this is the thing. So I accept that something is not right with this equation, because if you end up feeling resentful, then there's something wrong with the equation.
Exactly.
However, what about if someone comes to you and say, David, it's all well and good to say, well, stop people pleasing, and then you'll stop feeling resentful or stop feeling exhausted. But as soon as I start saying no to people, I feel immediately guilty. I feel immediately like I'm being selfish. I feel immediately like I'm letting people down. And those are red light feelings as well. And they feel more powerful in that moment than a kind of a underlying bubbling resentment feeling. So what do I do then?
But then you do the golden thread and you ask yourself, why have I now created a red light that I'm calling guilt or whatever?
Yeah.
What is it about saying to someone I love, I can't do that at the moment, or that's not appropriate for me to do, or I don't want to do that, or I believe that you should do that, or let's talk about that, or at the moment I'm really busy and I seem to be doing everything and you seem to be doing nothing. What's wrong about having that conversation with a family member, someone you love, a child, a parent, a partner? What is wrong with having that open conversation? I'm putting to you that this is the Wu Wei. The Wu Wei is to be able to relate, to be able to talk, to act appropriately. And if you're avoiding their wrath, then you're not acting in Wu Wei. You are controlling and trying to avoid, and then you end up creating another red light, which this lady created, called resentful, because you can't win. Because as you avoid, then the other person asks for more. Why wouldn't they? If you'll do this, then you can do this, and then you can do that.
It's the dynamic of the relationship, and then this is where kind of manipulative, codependent, all sorts of dysfunctional relationships manifest. And I'll put a link above we've done a great video on codependent relationships, which is definitely worth watching. David.
Can I just say a moment before you ask? You mentioned a really important word there, dysfunctional.
Yeah.
See, Wu Wei is being functional.
Yeah.
Living in Wu Wei. You're not saying it's going to be right, wrong, black, white, good, bad. It's saying that, if somebody asks you to do something and it's in your pleasure to do it, well, of course you don't just say no. If it's something you like doing and you want to do it, then carry on doing it. And there should be no red lights. So, for instance, ask yourself, do you want to be a doormat? Do you want to be walked over? And if the answer is yes, David, I love it, then you should be having a wonderful life. Trying to please everybody, failing, trying harder, sacrificing your life to make other people happy. Then you wouldn't get a red light of resentfulness or tiredness. You would be elated. You would have more energy. You would say, ask me to do something else, please, before I go to bed. Do you want me
this gives me joy, it gives me more energy, rather than being depleted.
And let me just get the vacuum cleaner out and I'll vac the whole house because I love it so much. You wouldn't be creating the red lights. And that's why feelings are so important. Feelings are the indicator. You interpret your feelings. If something's giving you joy and happiness, green lights, we call it love, satisfaction, bliss, confidence, you're doing the right thing. If it's creating red lights,
frustration, resentment, anger, bitterness, hurt, tired, physical tiredness.
The equation is wrong. It's dysfunctional. It's the belief system is dysfunctional, not fit for purpose.
Would you say that's a good way to kind of stop and identify whether this decision I'm about to make, this yes I'm about to say to doing something is coming from the right place? Is it coming from an authentic wu-wei place, or is it coming from an out of balance place?
Yes, I think that's what the teaching is. When you get a red light feeling, you got to sometimes stop. Maybe not at the moment, but certainly that day. This is what I would call a meditation. You stop, you take a breath, have a cup of tea, and say, now, why? Why did I create that red light? What was my thinking? And I will always guarantee with the pleasing people is people are putting on me. Well, no wonder they're putting on you, because you're putting a sign over your head saying, please come and dump here. Please come and dump on me. I'll do anything you ask me. Then when they do that, then you moan. You can't have it all ways. You can't be doing this in a kind of a swinging pendulum, thinking that if they see you as some kind of a martyr, then they're going to feel sorry for you and love you even more. It doesn't work like that. That's too complicated. It's much better to say what you mean what you say. Walk the walk, talk the talk. Be honest. And then your niceness, I think this lady says, I'm a very nice and loving person. Kind and loving person. You can say no. Practice no. Practice now. Practice saying no in a kind and loving and compassionate way.
Yeah.
You can still say no. You don't have to do what I say, no. You can say, oh, thank you for asking me, darling. But I prefer not to do that at the moment. That's still no. It's a very kind way of saying it. And if you are a kind and compassionate person, then here's the life lesson. Find kind and compassionate ways of saying no. I can't do that. Explain why you can't do it. I can't do it, and here's the reason.
Or would you say saying no, but also sometimes it could be finding a harmonious compromise.
Absolutely.
Or, a harmonious middle way where you're not fully saying no, but you're not saying yes to everything,
Absolutely.
Okay.
You engage in conversation. I'd love to do that for you, but I can't do it at the moment. Perhaps I'll do it later, or do it tomorrow, or do it at another time. And you explain. So it's not just saying no or yes, it's giving that explanation. And there's the woo-wee, the evidence behind your decision, so that the person can agree or disagree with you. And then you enter into a relationship of communication, and that really is what a relationship, whether this is your mom, dad, brother, sister, husband, partner, wife, doesn't really matter, because these are the relationships that you have to nurture, and you nurture through communication. And just keep on saying yes, 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 thinking that you can please them. This is what this lady has experienced. This will drain your energy, because you're on the hamster's wheel, running faster and faster, that we call the carousel of despair. And that's what that lady has finished up with. She's run, and then she's in despair. And then what? She's resentful. Then she's angry. Then she's frustrated. Then she says life isn't the relationship, the family's not the way I wanted. Instead of coming off the hamster's wheel and entering into the conversation.
And I think what you've talked about, this idea of taking time to think it through, taking time to think about what you want, taking time to communicate what you want sensitively, lovingly, compassionately, finding the middle way. That strikes me as maybe for the first time, us paying as much attention to our own needs as needs of other people, because a lot of people have this approval addiction. They're seeking validation through people pleasing. And you talk about the why, why am I about to say yes, even though I want to say no? I think really to to solve the problem of people pleasing once and for all, you have to dig deep to find the core why, which I guess is sometimes like inner child stuff. It's about your core beliefs. It's about wanting to be loved because you feel you're unlovable, wanting to feel like you're needed because you don't feel good enough. All those things. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, David?
I would say in my experience, it's always about the inner child. I've never met anybody who's a people pleaser, and it's not exactly as Alex said. It's their inner child requiring and needing to be validated, requiring to be wanting other people, external, to make them happy, thinking that they have to earn love. We've spoke about this on the love video. Thinking that love is a commodity that's given to them and they have to take it away. Or the Taoists say, they believe they have to earn love. You don't have to earn love. You create love. Love is a feeling, an emotion, and you create all your emotions. And this is why this lady gets very tired, because she's on this carousel of despair, trying harder, failing, trying harder, thinks, well, if I just try harder, I'll just try harder. And then that's when that carousel swings from wanting to be happy and sensitive and please people. It swings right to the other side, to resentment, anger, frustration. And this is why the golden thread is so powerful, because if you take time, 5-10 minutes a day, and just say, right, so let me do the golden thread. Why do I want to make people happy? What is the reasoning behind that? And I can always say, well, it makes me happy. Why do other people, why don't you make yourself happy? That's what I said at the beginning. Share your happiness. It's your responsibility to be happy. If they don't want to share happiness with you, you can't make them. You can't hold them down around the neck and say, you have to be happy today. You can't do that. People change and move, and their emotions change and move, and they deal with things in a different way. I would think it's much more powerful to say, why are you unhappy? Is there anything that you would like to talk to me about your unhappiness? I think that would be much more loving, much more sensitive, and much more effective.
I think, David, when you, as an adult, it can be for some people when you see someone upset or needy, and you know that you could do something to help them. If you don't like confrontation, if you don't like people crying, if you don't like seeing something upset, sometimes that can take you right back to childhood, when as a child you maybe saw your parents arguing or family members upset, and you didn't understand what was going on. You didn't understand your role. In fact, for some people, they blame themselves. And then all they wanted to do is take away the horribleness of the situation. And a lot of children think, well, if I can just please them, if I can just make mummy not be upset, if I can make daddy not be upset, or if I can just make everyone not be angry or shouting at each other, the child misunderstands. And then it's almost like, as an adult, those sensitive individuals, it's like a trigger, it's like, oh no, so-and-so is upset, or so-and-so is angry with me or upset. What can I do to help? What can I do to get rid of it? I don't like the situation. And they jump in, and just because they want to get rid of the red light feelings that it's given them, but they also they don't want people they love to have red light feelings and be upset. I mean, how can...
But you're right. You did a lovely explanation. I was very quiet and let you talk. But you see how it ended up? I don't like it.
Yeah. Because makes you feel horrible inside, doesn't it? When you see a loved one upset,
but you are creating.
You can't feel good about it, can you? You want to. Isn't it the natural inclination to want to jump in and help them sort it out?
Well, it is when you're a child and you haven't got the emotional education 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I can understand a child of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 having that mindset, having that belief system, because their emotions haven't matured. But you're not that child now. And if Alex says you don't like to confront and speak to people, well, I would think there's a big difference between confronting and confrontation. Yeah. But aren't people allowed to cry and get upset? Aren't they allowed to display emotions? You display your emotions, perhaps it's a good idea, like sometimes to have a good old cry. But if you come at this situation from a childlike belief system, it will never work, because if you think that they are crying, I am the emotional nurse and I'm going to parachute in.
Or it's my fault. You know, so a lot of people just blame themselves, even though it's actually not been caused by them, you know.
But why would they do that? Again, a child would do that.
Yeah.
A child would do that because they haven't got the emotional education. But when have you got the experience, the knowledge to know that it's not your fault? And if people are crying and upset, it's not for you to put it right for them, because quite simply, you cannot. You cannot. They are creating. If you believe what we always say, you are the creator of your emotions, not the victim, then they have created that emotion, not you. And so you can't parachute in and somehow put it right for them. You can pet them and you can love them and you can put your arm around them and you can give a shoulder to cry on. You can go and make them a cup of tea. You can listen to them, but you can't put it right for them because that's their journey. It's not your journey, it's their journey. And this is another part of this which we haven't even touched on yet. If you keep on jumping in and putting it right for them, especially for children, when do they ever learn how to do it for themselves? If you're the parent and you believe that your child can't experience any emotional discomfort and you parachute in and put them in a little bubble and you sort it all out for them and then give it them back, when are they going to learn? That carries on into adulthood.
Yeah, and we've done a video on that. I'll put a link to that as well.
And then they'll never learn. So, this goes to your partner. This could be your partner who's still having difficulty with emotions. So, of course, you're compassionate, you're caring, you're loving, you put your arm around them, you make them a cup of tea, you make them comfortable. And then after they've got over the emotional episode, when they want to, at the appropriate time, you say, let's talk about it. Let's understand the Wu Wei. Let's understand what led up to that incident. Not keep on putting a plaster over the incident, because that will never cure it.
Yeah, and then as I guess we said earlier, you get into this dynamic of a relationship where you're always jumping in to save them and they're always relying on you, and that's not a healthy, balanced relationship.
Dysfunctional.
That's the top and bottom of it.
It's dysfunctional because it's a relationship. The word tells you it should be about relating. So at times you go and nurture them and put your arm around them and support them. But at times they do the same to you. Yeah. So it has to be a relationship.
Give and take.
And if it's always you giving and they always taking, I'm sorry, this isn't a functional. This is dysfunctional, as Alex said at the beginning. It's dysfunctional. It's not functional. So we all go through difficulties, twists and turns, challenging times, and that's why we're in a relationship, because we want and we would like that support from our family and partner. But if that's always taking, this is not a relationship, because sometimes we have to pay that back.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I think you have to, I guess, sit down, because I suppose for some people, getting into a situation where they're in a relationship or relationships where they're people pleasing, for some people it just happens from day one, because that's the sort of relationship they were looking for. They were looking for a relationship where the other person could be dependent on them and they could please them. And
Can I tell you why they do that?
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you. So Alex just made a really important point. People go and look for victims to save because they believe that if they save that person, then that person will love them.
And want to stay with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a great point. I'm sorry to cut in, but that was a great point. So that's what how would they love me unless I can really do something
be of value
for them?
to them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's where the people pleasing kicks in.
A part of the people pleasing.
And again, that goes back to the codependent relationships video. So I'll put the link in the notes below as well for that. So you either day one in a people pleasing, manipulative, approval addiction type relationship, or it can happen over a period of time. It slips into that dynamic.
Yes.
Either way, say you have a massive wake-up call and say, oh my goodness, I've either reached breaking point with this and it's very unhealthy, or I've just watched this video and I've recognized what I'm doing here. I can see that through my people pleasing, I'm manipulating, I'm selling myself short, I'm not reaching my true potential, I'm sacrificing what I want in life to please others. This is a really bad situation. I want to do something about it. But oh my goodness, it's like I'm entrenched now in this dynamic of this relationship. If all of a sudden I turn round to my husband, my wife, my partner, my children, my parents, and start doing things differently, start saying no, start wanting to have a conversation about, can we reach a compromise here? They are going to hit the roof, because actually these are the people I think really they enjoy taking. It just feels very daunting, David.
But then you should watch the videos, because I always say it always starts with you. So the first step, if this video has rang some bells for you and you think, oh, okay, I could be doing this, the first step is always work on yourself. I am not saying after this video you storm into the room, open the door and say, right, things are going to change around here from now on. You don't do that. You take a moment or a week or a few meditations. You start making notes, listen to the video again, listen to the other videos, the inner child videos. And first of all, heal yourself. Sort out what's going on in your mind. As Alex quite rightly said, it is normally about the inner child work. Yeah. I would say nearly always, 99%. So it's always about looking externally.
On that score, then, David, we need to do as you say, the inner child work for ourselves, the inner child reparenting to get our beliefs totally rock solid and authentic. Absolutely. Before we start projecting out these new beliefs into the outside world. And that's...
Absolutely. Because when you do that, when you do the self-care, the self-love, the self-analysis, the golden thread, all the things we talk about in the Facebook community and on these videos, you are working on yourself. This is your journey, and this is what you need to do. Don't worry yet about trying to change other people. Change yourself. Ask yourself, has pleasing people ever worked? Ever once? Ever worked once? I will tell you, no, it's never worked. Even if they're pleased for that few moments, they'll still be as angry in a couple of hours' time or tomorrow. It's never worked. So work on yourself, because the brilliant thing about that is it doesn't involve anyone else. It involves you getting your belief structure right. What you believe, why you believe it. Remember, I'm always saying this. What you believe, why you believe it. And then during that process, without even realizing it, your demeanor changes, the words you use change, the way you address things change. You're still a nice, kind, loving, compassionate, caring person, but you use your words in different ways. You smile and you stop being resentful. You stop firing back. You stop doing all of that stuff, because you're coming from a much more solid base that we call Wu Wei, authentic, loving, truthful. What you say is what you mean. And this takes back. So it's rather than trying to do what you've always been doing, changing the outside world, you're changing what you can change. You're changing yourself. So let me give you that teaching. So many of my clients spend so much time trying to change the outside world, change people, change events, change jobs. Oh, I'll be better if I move house. Oh, I'll be better if I had another car. Oh, I'll be better if I was working somewhere else. Instead of saying, let's change me first. And then the others unfold just naturally. At the right time. Here's the law of attraction. As you change yourself now, without you even realizing, as I say, the way you look at people, the way you dress, the way you walk, the way you talk, the tone of your voice, you don't get so angry, but perhaps you're a little bit firmer and a little bit stronger, a little bit more clearer in what you mean and what you say. And this is about changing you. So it always starts with you. This is the Wu Wei lesson. looking at yourself.
And to be clear, it's not like you're born with a people-pleasing personality. And also, just because you're a loving, kind, sensitive person, it doesn't mean you have to be a people pleaser. No. You can still be loving, kind, sensitive to yourself first, and then to others. It's not either or. No. And a lot of people do think it's either or. You know, that's how they've been brought up. So, David, when I'm kind of doing this self-work on myself, reflecting inwards, doing some of the inner child work, the reparenting work, and I'll put a link to the reparenting videos. I do that work on myself to make sure my core beliefs are authentic in terms of what I believe about myself and my own self-worth, that I can also validate myself. I don't need the validation from other people. Right, so I do all that work. Then I go out bravely into the outside world.
No, you don't go out bravely. You just go out authentically, you see? Okay. You just go out as you.
But I'm wondering, I don't know whether this is just like me thinking, or slowly, softly, I'm too nervous to do it wholesale. Do I just start saying no, or start having those conversations? No. Or do I pick easy situations before I tackle the big ones that I know are going to be difficult? What's the best way to do it?
The situations pick you, because what you do, you change your filter.
Yeah.
So all the words that you use, I go out bravely, I go tippy-toe, I'm only looking for the easy kills. When you begin to change your filter, your whole demeanour, the way you address every situation, this is why we call these life lessons. There's nothing really, you're not going to say, well, I'll please him on that one, but I'm not going to please him on that one, because that's so confusing, because the person won't know what you're pleasing and what you don't. You have this general approach, what I would call authenticity, truthfulness, honesty, with integrity. You value your integrity. So you don't have to tippy-toe out. Once you've changed your filter, as things come to you, life situations, you deal with them differently, more authentically, much calmer, no resentfulness, no losing your temper.
Yeah.
Then the lady
you have a more authentic, self-assured confidence about yourself, that almost you emit that energy before you even open your mouth. So people start to notice the differences before you're verbally communicating things.
And I'll take you right back to what the lady says. I'm a nice, loving, careful, whatever, compassionate, caring person. So you say the truth, loving, compassionate, caring, nice, in a nice way. You say what you really believe, but with that sensitivity. Remember what we always say, sensitivity is your superpower. You can tell your truth sensitively. That's the difference. Being sensitive doesn't mean you're weak, doesn't mean people walk over you, doesn't mean that you can't deal with a situation. What it means is you deal with that situation sensitively, and you deal with it correctly, and you do not let go of your self-worth to compromise yourself for an easy life, because it's not an easy life. Do never compromise your self-worth. Do not compromise your self-esteem, because it will not make your life easier. It makes your life more difficult.
And so if you go out and you're becoming, or you're relearning how to be this authentic, self-assured person, occasionally the inner child will have a wobble, I guess. What I'm saying is sometimes being this confident, self-assured person, it doesn't all of a sudden mean that you don't have to make hard decisions. You don't have to have difficult conversations. It's not like all of a sudden the waves part and everything becomes easy, because life's not like that. So part of that process, and part of developing the new habit of being that person rather than the habit of defaulting to people pleasing, the inner child may put up some resistance.
The inner child will put up some resistance.
Or have a wobble.
Yes.
So
that's the meditation.
So that's the meditation. So what I'm saying is, it's not all going to be roses going round the door as soon as you've done the self-inquiry work. It's a process of getting used to making these choices, having these conversations, standing your ground, thinking for a lot of people for the first time, well, hold on a minute. If I didn't have to people please, if I didn't have to please this person in this situation as I've always done, what would I actually do? If people pleasing wasn't an issue, what would I actually choose to do? And even getting used to having that self-talk with yourself, because for a lot of people, I don't think they even consider that because they just default to the people pleasing.
But you see, you've used a couple of interesting words there, default and habit. Remember, a habit is just a choice. Defaulting is still a choice. You are making a choice. This is why you have to do the work on yourself first. This is the most important thing and the best thing, because you know that work, it doesn't involve anyone else. No one need know you're doing it. And of course, what Alex says, you already know that. You're not going to get it right, because we as human beings only learn things by making mistakes. How many times have you heard me say that? Every human being only learns things by making mistakes. You pooped your pants, you crashed the gears of your car. You learn by making mistakes. But here's another thing about that part of your mind that we call the inner child. It really loves the familiar. It really loves to kind of get used to things. So when you're doing this internal work on yourself, following the golden thread, asking the why question, learning, changing your belief system, finding a belief system that's fit for purpose, that's not dysfunctional, that you own and you believe in it. And then for the inner child, that becomes familiar. And then that becomes easier, because the inner child is being so used to giving up on its self-worth. It's been so used to sacrificing itself. It's been so used to putting other people, hoping that they will look after him or her. And this will never work. It's your responsibility, please. It's your responsibility to love and to care for you. It's your responsibility. And if you are that loving, compassionate, caring, holistic, spiritual person, do it to yourself first. Don't do it to other people hoping they'll do it to you. Do it to yourself first, and let that chi energy that we talk about come through you and out. Here's what it is. Share your happiness. Work on you being happy first, and then allow that happiness to go out into the universe. Now, if that meets a grumpy person, okay, you just send them more happiness, and finally they'll start to change, because they'll look at you and they go, oh, I wonder why she's so happy or he's so happy. This is why I love the word inspired. Inspire people. Inspire people with your energy, with your chi. I love the word inspire because it reminds me of being in spirit. Be in your authentic spirit and allow that authentic spirit that you've got to come out and inspire people to be the best that they can be as they're watching you being the best that you can be.
And when you shine your light authentically like that, it will mean that you will attract or more authentic relationships into your life. But it also may mean, like, the harsh reality is that some existing relationships will fall away.
Could do,
because
or change, definitely change.
They'll either change, or the person, whether it's the friend or the partner or the family member, will not like you being the authentic you, because they want you to be the old people pleaser. But that
goes back down to communication.
Yeah.
So I would want to know, what is it you don't like about me? Yeah. Isn't that an interesting conversation? I mean, they might want to go off and join Grumpy Anonymous, perhaps that's somewhere that you don't want to go to. So, but you can at least have that conversation if you're coming through that filter of truth, honesty, and integrity. And some relationships will change, but people have got their choices. You can still love them. You can still send them happiness. You can still be the best that you can be, and you can still be inspiring them.
And you don't necessarily need to be in a relationship with them to love the person. I mean, that's one of the teachings we give on relationships. So, I think we've covered a lot of ground there, David. I hope that's given you some useful insights. If you recognize any of the things we've talked about in this video in terms of people-pleasing habits or people-pleasing tendencies, any inner child issues, or if any of the techniques you've suggested resonate with you, please comment below and ask your questions. You know, we're really delighted to hear from you always. And I'm sure everyone will recognize some of the things we've talked about in this video. If you enjoy our channel, as you know, we produce new videos every week, so don't forget to subscribe. And if you're interested in working one-to-one with David, I will put a link below on how you can work with David wherever you are in the world via his video call sessions. And so we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.